The Mbawula chat will be facilitated by Bulelani Balabala. The Mbawula chat with Doctor, the real Doctor, Thebe, Ikalafeng. He's in the building. Thank you so much for joining us. Can we please, as he comes on stage, Bulelani will also facilitate it as well. A real legend. Let's show him some love from Mabopane. Let's get up on our feet, ladies and gentlemen, and show love to the doctor himself. A real legendary. You'll find that wow. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together. Mabopane, let's go. Put our hands together for Dr. Thebe. Ikalafeng in the building. Let's go, Mabopane. Let's go. Let's show some love for this legendary gentleman, brand specialist. He's in the building. He'll tell you more. It's going to be a Mbawula chat. So sit back, relax, and enjoy and hear from the legend himself. All right. So this will be facilitated by Bulelani Balabala, Mr. Get Things Done himself. Please, can you come on stage, my brother?
Give it up. Guys, are you excited for this particular part of the program? I'm very excited. It's been years in the making.
We've been planning to do this for a while, haven't we?
Many years. But I think for me, you know, it's a watershed moment, I think, for me as an entrepreneur that has taken consistent advice from this amazing, meteoric, you know, global African brand authority, you know. I mean, our relationship started 12 years ago. Well, my relationship with him started 12 years ago. I don't know when his relationship with me started. It was when he was walking out of I think it was a conference. He was wearing a suit. He doesn't wear them like he used to then. And he was rushing out. And I said to him, Mr. Ikalafeng, I'd like to, no, talk quickly, young man. I'm in a rush. What are you saying? No, here's my number. Just call me. Then he left, but then it became an amazing relationship that ensued from there. So I'm really inspired and honored. But I think apart from, you know, the personal relationship, it's just, you know, from an across the board, I think as South Africa, a true treasure that South Africa has. You know, if you don't know, Google. You know, I mean it, not in an arrogant sense. You know, when they say true global African authority, you know, on brand, this is this amazing gentleman. Anything he's touched has completely turned into gold. I attended, in a respectful way, what I'd call his living eulogy, you know, when he was receiving his doctoral. And a lot of the friends over the years were sharing speeches. And it was a beautiful moment, a moment where you got masterclass lessons within that time about excellence. You know, about the fact that the only standard that we live upon here is excellence. And every time you have a conversation with him, the first question is, when is it going to Africa? Because Africa is open for business. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together from a warm, hearty, heartfelt welcome for Dr. Thebe Ikalafeng. I definitely did do his bio justice, and as if I don't know you, no one knows you. How would you best introduce yourself?
Oh, well, I was supposed to say something. I mean, I'm from Kimberley. That says it all. It means I'm a diamond, right? And it means I'm gonna shine wherever I go. It means I'm the symbol of unity and unions, right? Symbol of excellence, because diamonds are peerless. But in a simple way, I view myself as an advocate for a brand-led African renaissance. So I view myself as somebody who says that the politicians have failed us. Our parents have brought us up to this point. The aid has turned us into beggars. And the only thing that we can do differently is by creating, supporting, and consuming African brands. Because when we build African brands, we are able to create industries. And when we create industries, we're able to create jobs. When we create jobs, we're able to pay tax. When we pay tax, we're able to create roads and hospitals and all the public goods. And when we can afford to do that, we don't have to be beggars and dependent on anyone. So the simplest way to look at what I do is I'm just a champion and advocate for Made in Africa brands. And I support it because it is our ultimate uhuru. Nothing else has worked so far.
So, and I love this, I think this particular question because it's sort of going to tie into what you said. I mean, when I met you, sharp dressed, best dressed.
I don't do it anymore?
No, you still are. But best dressed wearing suits, you know? And that transition over the years into truly wherever you go, Africa, your time is now, you know, local clothing. And I think through your help and direct assistance, brands like your Tsepo brand and many others have seen growth, exponential growth. Where did that come from? And that transition?
Well, I think many years ago, more than a decade ago, I had coffee with the CEO of Samsung for the continent. Actually, I was writing an article for the 50th anniversary of the African Union. And you know, African Union in Ethiopia, that's a mother body of all African countries. I'll not be presumptuous. And I was writing, so I went to interview the CEO, and I said to the CEO, I said, why is Samsung so successful in the continent? Everybody's got a Samsung phone. You had 200 rand, you had 2,000, you had 20,000. We all have Samsung phones. And he says to me, because we understand Africans. Now I'm looking, this is a Chinese, Korean guy. He says, we understand Africans. And he says, me as a Korean, I've been to every African home in every continent. So I'm sitting, I'm like, yo, Mehlo Mangane has been to everywhere. Mina, I'm here. And meeting Sekhaya. This guy knows more about my continent. And I was like, I called my friend Omar, who's Tunisian in London. I said, Omar, we are not Africans because we don't understand our people. I've only been to 15 countries or so. By the time when I left Nike, you know, after my 6 years at Nike, I realized that I'd only been to 10% of the continent when I left Nike in 2002. And I did 90%, which is the rest of the continent, between the time I left Nike and today. And because I realized then, because I realized then after that meeting with that guy, I said, I need to know this continent better, because he clearly has seen the opportunity. And he saw the opportunity by being one with us. Till now we're trying to run away from us, but now they're running to us, because they see that's where the money is. So that's the one story. Then the other interesting one was 1998, 2003, Thabo Mbeki gave a speech at the tourism in Thebe. In Thebe, you know, I was on tourism, I was deputy chairman for tourism for 10 years. And Thabo's speech was so interesting, because Thabo started speaking about if he had time and he could take away a moment from being president, from fighting Nabantu as ANC, as EFF9. He says, you know, I would actually travel the continent. He says, I would go to Ngorongoro crater and hang out with the lions and be one with them. I would go to Port Elizabeth, where we've buried the remains of Sarki Bartman. He says, I'll go to Namibia, the sand dunes. And he started describing. I'm like, what is he talking about? Tina's Kulumang in London. You know, that's where most of us want to be again. We also want to be Champs-Élysées in France, you know, the Tour Eiffel. We want to go to a Statue of Liberty. We want to go to the Tower of Pisa in Italy, because that's how we think that's beautiful. And here Thabo Mbeki is painting a beautiful picture of the continent. So man, so now I'm getting this longing for the continent I did not know is so beautiful. Because I'm used to people, when they talk about us, they say, they're killing each other, corrupt, so I'm like, yo. And then Thabo here is painting the most magnificent picture. And I'm like, what a beautiful picture I want a piece of that. I want to try to understand that continent. Then the third one was interesting. I was in Switzerland, so I used to go to Switzerland every year. For 7 years in a row, I used to judge entrepreneurs. So we used to judge the best entrepreneurs from the world. They all are but young entrepreneurs, and these kids all had master's, PhDs from Oxford, from Ivy Leagues. It was me, myself, the professor, one the professor from Harvard, and a professor from LSE. We used to be on the final panel to determine who's the best thinker in entrepreneurship. And we used to sit there, and then there was one interview where the head lady was a young lady, the short. She was the chairperson of the Communist Party, China. And then there's a young boy, there's a meeting like this. So some young guy puts up a hand who's doing a PhD finally. You know, PhD people are very smart. Like the hands are always the tallest. And then the hand is up. And then this young guy says to this woman, yeah, you were sitting there from China, speaking nice thing about China. To go Tibet. People in Tibet are suffering because of you, Chinese people. And she allowed this young man to speak because the boy was going with big English, you know, and then afterwards he says when this boy is finished, and she looked at the boy and says, have you been to Tibet? And the boy says, no. She goes, how do you speak about the country where my mother was born like this without having been to the country? So I got a third lesson. The third lesson was, I can't be a ghostwriter about the continent. I can't be speaking about the rest of the continent when I haven't been. I can't say, because Kimberley, and start saying things about Mabopane where I've never been to Mabopane. The only time I can speak about Mabopane and have an opinion about Mabopane, it cannot be from a textbook. I must be here. I must move around. I must talk to the people. So I learned 3 important lessons from the guy from Korea, that the opportunity in the continent will come alive. The opportunity in the country, in the townships, will come alive if you go to where the customers are, to the places, and you go understand how they eat, how they live, how they work, how they sleep, what needs they have. I understood from the lady from China that I cannot make an opinion about a place where I haven't been. I understood from Thabo Mbeki that our continent is beautiful. I must judge it through an African lens. I mustn't judge it through a European lens. Because everything we read about our townships is people who've never been to our townships, and they're trying to tell us how bad our townships are, how backward we are, how all those things we are, but they've never been here. So the way to judge our townships is through our lens. So all those, when you put them all together, and now you must remember, I was the first black guy to win GQ Best Dressed. I was best dressed every year, if you recall, in pretty much every single magazine. They used to write too much. I got bored about all that because I started thinking, how kanti na kitumeka di hatofela. So because now I'm a marketing director I'm a superstar marketing director at the biggest brand in the country at that time. Everybody wants to work for Nike, wear Nike. I don't wear Nikes, I only wear suits, custom-made suits, because that's what I was used to coming from the US, dressing up, and I never changed it. I never wore takis and sneakers. And now they're only judging me through that. And so I said, when I left Nike, I said, I'm gonna stop wearing suits right away. So I'm gonna answer your question after a long way now. I said, I'm gonna stop wearing suits. I'm gonna stop dressing too Western-centric. First I started buying jeans, which I never used to own. Then I had lots of techies. I started wearing slip-ons and techies sometimes, then jackets and t-shirts. And then when I started hearing Abu Mbeki, started hearing these Koreans, and started visiting the different countries, I then started understanding one thing, that if I want to be successful and to claim and to accept that I'm an African, then I must accept what Africa looks like. I must accept what Africa feels like. I must accept what Africa tastes like. So I then began to dramatically change my clothing as well. And I started switching to more Afrocentric. And obviously I went the other way first. So, you know, went all the way, and then I came back And then like, like it's a pendulum, like I'm there now. I'm sort of now here where I mix it all well. I find it easy to wear the suit from my friend in Ghana, 1999. It goes just fine with the Bottega shoe because we understood one thing as I get older, and as an African and move around, that what W.E.B. Du Bois said so beautifully. He says, there's a double consciousness that we live in. He says you must accept that we have been affected and we've been influenced by the West. So I shouldn't apologize for it. But I must also equally, if not higher, accept that I'm an African first. And I must celebrate both. So I'm at peace now with where I am in my mind, because I also needed to do something else. I needed to align my mouth, what I say, my brain, what I think, and what you see. Because it's one thing to going Africa, but you've never been to the continent, beyond the continent. You've only been to Mozambique at the beaches. You've been to Zanzibar on the beaches. You've been to Swaziland for the bushfire. And then you say you're an African. And I said I needed to align all that. That's everything must work together. So that's sort of how the change, if you will, got about. So it was an alignment of the mental and the heart and the work and everything else that you see that comes together.
Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And I think, on the back of that, if there's one thing I've learned from you and picked up is excellence. The spirit of excellence, but the practicality, excellence in practice. Where did that come from? Because there's nothing you do that's not excellence.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm sure it started. First, I was number one for pretty much the rest of my school life. So I was already used to being number one. So it was not a big problem to strive to be the best. And then secondarily, having been associated obviously with the number one toothpaste brand, the number one sport brand, the number one hospitality brand, having worked for all those, you then over time, all those become a part of who you are, a part of what you strive for, and a part of what you want to achieve in your own space. And I think it starts at those small places when you encourage and you celebrate excellence. So being the best at, doing the best at, becomes part of your culture. And of course, and I'm glad you spoke about that, because Kunalento, there's this thing more South Africa where people like to talk about black child, your child is sparing. But black child, it's possible. And then they start talking about black excellence and all those things. So I've always discounted all those things because I think those things are pulling us backwards. Because there's no black excellence, there's no African excellence, there's only excellence. And we all should be striving for excellence. Because when you're saying black excellence, you are now putting grade school excellence. Uthi isendleleni but angafiki. And I think part of the reasons that we don't progress is because we've downgraded ourselves. We have reset the scale of excellence. So, but I think excellence to me is an innate thing. And Africans were excellent as a start. Because remember, we are the people in our townships where we'd compete about who's got the best stoop, who's got the best stop nonsense, who dresses the best in the street, who has the best voice. From the best. We understand excellence. It's just that we don't always translate it to everything else we do. We want excellence for ourselves, but we don't want excellence for everybody else. So what we need to do is, that which we strive for ourselves must become that which we preach, that which we expect, that which we assert on. Because the mistake that happened perhaps in South Africa in the last 10, 15 years. And it must remember when I left Nike, then I got into my career in consulting. And then at those times, we really started building the great brands, the Unistas that you see now, the Transit that you see now. So all those brands came out of my team and all those. But then there came a new era. And Thabo Mbeki was speaking about it the other day. There came a new era where now the excellence became the money and the work became a byproduct. The work became downgraded because manje, it is no longer about who does the best work, but who pays the best backhander. And that's a problem that we're having now. And that's why as a country, when we were all growing up, our townships never had potholes. When we were growing up, our townships, our halls where we used to go perform were the best. The township pools, the township recreational places. But now, the reason there's grass growing on the highway, the reason there's potholes going on there, is because now as a people, we have decided excellence is no longer what we want for ourselves. Excellence is what we want for our bank accounts. And that's a problem. That we'd rather take 100% and put in 10% in the work and 90% in the bank, instead of 90% in the work and 10% in the bank, and guarantee the work for the next future.
Yeah, no. I mean, how many of you guys are learning stuff? Are you guys taking notes? You need to make sure that you take notes. Guys that are watching online, please make sure that you're taking notes. But you know, I mean, I sort of look at your amazing career. And I mean, I love when you spoke about when you know, the stoop, because one of the things that was whispered in my ear is how amazing this amazing gentleman was at Ushainisa stoop. He put his sisters to shame.
My sister's the problem, because my sister, that quote-unquote eulogy is talking about. First, it was on last two Mondays ago, right? It felt like a eulogy because we had 30 speakers speaking about a person who's alive. And my sister was one of them, and my mother. So those two have now been officially cancelled at any public events. because my mother then goes on to tell people, and I left lost. I waited too long to stop Lebele. Then when I stopped from there, I started sucking my thumb. Now people are looking, but I think the braces worked. And I never had braces. Are you with me? And my sister started telling people, you're Tebona Polisha stoop. I had no choice. I had a tough grandmother and I was the oldest grandchild. My grandmother Nanchusaka 5, 6 in the morning. Like we grew up. So all those things, they were sort of planting in us seeds of excellence, seeds of hard work, seeds of doing something to get something out. But most of us now, we want something out and want to put nothing into it.
Round of applause. Some tissue. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's the temperature in Mabopane is a nice one. I know. Yeah, and it's hotter because of the amazing gems that we're getting from Mr. Ikalafeng. But you know, I'm tempted to ask because, and I think this is one of the most consistent questions I ask when we host these Mbawula chats is, you look at someone who's had a career like yours and you ask themselves, and you ask, sorry, I sort of ask myself, have you had imposter syndrome? Have you gotten to spaces where you won awards or you got titles and you felt like, I don't deserve this or whatsoever the case? And how then have you navigated that? Because I think oftentimes on the back of being, Africans, we're constantly told, don't make too much noise. Don't talk about it too much.
I know this, but I think imposter syndrome, the feeling of an imposter syndrome is a good feeling. Before you speak, so I speak publicly to give speeches, and I've been speaking so much for more than 25 years now. I'm used to speaking in front of groups, but before every speech, my stomach turns. And I get jitters. Then I stand on the stage, and then I see, there's 1,000 people. They're all coming to listen to me say my one thing. My stomach turns every time. And I like that. I like that because what it does, it says, you have not yet arrived until you have delivered on what these people expect of you. It says that you are not great until they slap their hands and say you are excellent. So I don't mind the imposter syndrome. Because I don't mind feeling like that, because I constantly feel like that. And I constantly, people always say, when is your autobiography coming about? Because I get they are used to most South Africa, when you win one tender, you write an autobiography. So that's just how we roll. I mean, it's our thing. When you've got 1,000 followers on Instagram, you are a celebrity. Please, ngicela ubale incwadi. Kwala buka, re tsebe hore o tlhaga kae, how you got here. So now I haven't done one. I haven't done my autobiography, so it's coming out this year now, finally. But even nakhona, the reason I had not written so much, because I'd always said to myself, but what are you writing about? You have not yet arrived. You need to keep working. And then people say, but you've worked. You've got your lifetime achievements. You've won so many awards. You've been so many places. Kiri, no, I'm still working. I'm still working. And then when we'll reach a time when there'll be time to tell the story. And then that story must be rich, because you can't just rush to claim you are excellent. And I love what this Martin Neumeyer says, and all of us here, we're brand builders. Martin Neumeyer says, a brand is not what you say it is what they say it is. So if you remember that, and if you are building a brand, and all of us here are building brands, remember, you are nothing until they say you are somebody. So the question about imposter syndrome, of course, I still feel like that. I'm gonna feel like that until I die, because you must feel like that until you die, because it keeps you on your toes, it keeps you respectful, it keeps you working hard, because as soon as you relax, they go right past you, and you become past or part of the history. So you must always be doing what Stephen Covey said. One of the 7 habits of highly effective people is you must constantly sharpen the saw. You can always get better, because there's always somebody better than you. And that's how I feel constantly, and that's why I still work.
Now, you know, I think in sort of in line with one of the notes that you touched on there, having worked with so many brands and, you know, promoting so many local brands and facilitating trade with these amazing brands, what in your view is the makeup of these amazing local brands that have become super successful and have grown? You know, what attributes, in your view, have they had, or rather, what attributes should we have as business owners who want to actually transition from hustling to actually building sustainability to building actual brands, and now being told that we are the brands we think we are?
Good question. So a lot of us, when we are building, let's take away the word brand, let's just use siyahlanganisa business, something, siyahasla, rahasela, aribizento. Most of us will see Ubulelani asumula shopo yamagwenya, and then we like, he can't be the only one, that nami kufuna banjalo. Then we all want to start a shop yamagwenya. And then we all just cannibalize each other on the same thing. But the secret of great brands, and we can use a few of them now that we all know so well, like about Thebe, let's say for example Thebe, or Laduma Maxhosa, or Batu, and all of those were drip. Here's the secret. They did what Waldo Emerson once said. He says, go where there's no path and create your own path. You can't want to do what other people are doing, because competitive advantage, in other words, if you want to compete, you cannot be better than the other person. You have to be different from the other person. So the first foundation of creating great brands, whether you're Maxhosa or all those people, is to find that space where nobody else is playing and create your own story. So Maxhosa came into the space to start a brand, a knitwear brand. And he said, I'm gonna make a brand that's based on my culture as Xhosa. From an initiation, and create a knitwear brand. And that brand, nobody else had done something like that in the country. And that's why he's still the #1 in what he does. That's the first thing. There must be differentiation. You must do something different from other people. But the second most important thing is there must be, or the first even, there must be clarity. In other words, you must have a clear story. What is your story? What is it that you are selling, your story? Because a brand, at the end of the day, is a beautiful story told well. That's what a brand is. It's a beautiful, different story told well. So you need to tell your story beautifully well. It must be different. And the third important thing is you must be consistent. You can't people, the reason we go to Coke and then we go to McDonald's and we go to all those brands is because whether you buy your McDonald's in Mabopane or whether you buy it in Mauritius, it's the same McDonald's. Because they learned one thing when they created McDonald's. They said, we need to give you the same burger anywhere in the world, served hot and fast within the first few minutes in a clean environment. Doesn't matter where you are. You know the place Paul's, which sell coffee. We always meet Paul's, coffee and croissants and all those things. All the croissants come from one place in France. They freeze them and they send them all over the world. And they tell you how that croissant must be heated up, at what heat, and how it must be covered. So that if you eat the croissant in Paris or in Paris in Free State, the croissant must taste exactly the same. So the secret of great brands is a beautiful story, told beautifully, that's different from everybody else and delivered consistently over time. Because what is a brand at the end of the day? A promise made and a promise delivered. That's all that a brand is. And Coca-Cola learned the lesson in 1984, because Coca-Cola wanted to change the taste. Now Coca-Cola forgot one thing. Akopane le mozolo wa ko Natal. Anwa Coca ga ba re khohle mali yam. Because in a that thing, Coke, right? It's finally stony in a that kwetsa. You would say, that's the real Pepsi. I mean, the real stony. So that's what brands do. So what did Coke do in 1982-84? Bare changing in a formula. Yeah, this thing is doing well, but they change. So they changed the formula. They lost all the sales. Pepsi went past Coke. And I was about to buy. How? I thought, Sila, but you broke the promise. You changed the taste. I've come to you since 1886 for one thing, the same taste, and you've changed the taste. Coke Barry, back to the drawing board. Coke Classic. That's where Coke Classic come from. But let's go back to the formula. Coke got back their market share. Because that's what brands are. Deliver consistently on your promise. And remember, everything is a brand. Even a service is a brand. Even plumbing is a brand. Even yonkinto. And you even know, look, but your pizza madlamin, whatever pizza right? Say like pizza madlamin. Nobody else must do this. But the Potchefstroom, Masabata knows how these things are done. That's a brand, because she has a brand, they know that they're going to get them a certain way consistently from her. That's what brands are. And that's what the great brands do well.
What has been the piece of advice, a book you read, or what has been the single piece of learning that you've picked up over the years? It could be single, it could be a couple, that has always stuck with you through all the years, or rather has shifted your perspective.
Well, I mean, I was very lucky when I started working for Colgate in 1993. When I started working for Colgate in New York, I was very lucky because I met a mentor. I met a guy who was 43, I was 26 or something, and he was married with children. But you know, this guy was amazing. Like he'd say to me, come here, T. He says, weekend, I'm coming to take you out. He'd take me to places. And then he says, this is where you must buy your suits. That's about 3 weeks before I started working. He's already working with me. He says, before you start at work, he says, let me show you where we buy suits us. He's African American. And Colgate, there's few blacks. I don't know how many blacks. There must have been less than 100 blacks in the entire building of thousands. That's the head office of Colgate now in 300 Park Avenue. He says, let me show you where we buy clothes. So he takes me to these custom-made places, show me where they make shirts, where they make suits. And then he started making me buy books, like The Wretched of the Earth by Fanon, The Richest Man in Babylon. He started making me buy interesting books. And he says, oh, just read. Sorry, he didn't buy me the suits. This guy, sugar daddy. I mean, honestly, how do you feel about telling, his student, I've just finished varsity. I had to take him my overdraft and pay for my bloody things I can't even afford. And he said something interesting, by the way. When we've got all these things and we go pick them up now, like a week or so before I start, and I want to make sure when you arrive the first day at work, they judge you not on how you look, but on what you contribute. And then it was my first important lesson about how we should be thinking about selves. Because dressing well on its own is not the story. It's just to take that out of the way. Because whatever now that becomes the conversation. No longer what you're coming to bring to the table. Actually, you were bringing to the table, oh, no, I'm an entrepreneur. I sell, plumbing, I do all those things. But they're looking at you, but... You're so, now they're thinking. So that becomes a conversation. So Phil taught me something important. RT, when you arrive, you'll be one of the few blacks in the building. They are obviously going to notice you on 2 reasons. You're black and you're African. So we need to remove the things that they think about us out of the way. And you need to also enrich your language. So you read these books, you understand your history as a black person, as an African, and you understand how you fit into this. So that how fit like you must focus your energies on the work, because that's what they pay you for every month, the work. But now don't make them work by looking at you and then start judging you based on how you appear. So I think the important thing that we all should try and do is we should all try and have I don't know what people call it. Some people call it a board of directors. But I love what this other bishop in the US says. The bishop in the US says, and I love the story. He says, each and every single one of us, because most of us, has anybody written their will yet? Has anybody written their will? Has anyone written the will? The will, how little shwa? Like the will. Has anyone written where go mang? But anyway, he was saying that most of us, we know we write in our will, Stopusakane, Kibatla Bulelani on the left as Chware, Kibatla on the right, Malume Mang, Kibatla Malume Mang on the front, Malume Mang, Are. This guy, the bishop, I love him. He says, I could Stopus 6 handles. I want my 6 people now. He says, I want the 6 people I can count on now, that will carry me when I'm down, that will inspire me, that will help me, the people who will make me want to be better, the people who will invest in me. I want to know them now. I don't want them when I'm dead to carry my dead body. He says, because even the crane can carry your dead body. I want the live 6 people now. So all of us right now should be sitting and asking ourselves, who are the 6 people I can count on right now? Who is the person that I can count on when I'm feeling less motivated? The person I can count on when I want a bit of insight. The person I can count on when I want an investment. The person I can count on when I want to cry on to. So we all need to find our 6 6 people now while we're alive, not when we're dead. Because when we're dead, they are all useless. So I want them now. So all of us, I think when we live here, let's find our 6 people who are going to carry our life bodies today, not the 6 people who are going to carry our dead bodies when we don't need them.
You know, I think sort of jumping back to, you know, the brand conversation and talking about...
Siri, that was not about you.
That wasn't. Talking about the makeup of a great brand, you know, I can't help but think that, you know, sometimes as business owners and small business owners, we think, I love what Mr. Ikalafeng is saying because, this whole brand thing is expensive. It sounds like it's going to cost me a lot of money. I need to hire specialists. Maybe I need to get consultants and I don't have that money, you know. How can I walk out of here, in your view, in the simplest terms, and start to apply these brand principles?
Well, I think I learned this from some author somewhere, a guy brand author somewhere, and I've always carried it. And he says, the way you build a brand is the way a bird builds a nest, one strand at a time. So a brand, you have to be patient. Because remember, a brand is a living organism as well. It's a whole person. That's why brands have got personalities. That's why people say, mina muntu Louis, mina muntu webatu, mina muntu drip. Because these are personalities. These are relationships we're going to have. So if you're going to build a relationship, you have to build it slowly. So similarly, what we need and require now when you're starting out, think about it. There's no rush. Because you want to build a brand, not to pay the bills today. You want to build a brand to pay the bills of the next generation and the next generation thereafter. So, but if you are just starting Zamazama, that's not a brand. It's just to pay the bills. But you're going to build a brand, take your time and invest in it slowly. Yes, it costs a lot of money, but then money in, money out. So, garbage in, garbage out. So you need to invest if you want to reap the benefits of it. So, but you don't have to be the big things. It's just small things at a time. But what's beautiful about now is because we live in the digital space, is that so much information is free now. Like you can just Google how to write a marketing plan. Google, Baguniga. You can Google how to write a brand personality. Google. But you then, obviously, if you're young and like the young entrepreneurs, part of what you also do, you must have the chutzpah. You know, the fact that Tsepo used to come to my house on weekends, Tsepo jeans, and says, Uncle T, laced out his jeans. We should talk about them. Tsepo, that's not going to work. That's going to work. Ladumas, the whole family used to come to my house as well. I'll go to my office, they go to my office. We'll go through these things. We try to tell the story. Like, how do we write the story of Amakosa? Drip, all this. So all of them, even though they're so big, they all understood that sometimes you need to find a mentor who can walk the journey with you. So even as a young brand now, you should ask yourself, if I'm a young plumbing brand like that young man, I've got a young plumbing or home, whatever, fixing brand, who's the biggest one in this town? Can I go to them and just say, Kana, if you don't ask, you won't get. So most of say they unnecessary. What's the worst thing that they're going to say? No. No, it's not going to kill your spirit. No, it's just going to encourage you to build your confidence to ask the next person. So I think young entrepreneurs in townships find big entrepreneurs in the suburbs, in the cities, and say, listen, I'm young, this is what I do. I'm not your competitor, but I love what you do. I'm inspired by what you do. I'd really like to learn from you. How can we travel this journey together? Wow.
So, I'd really love to continue with the questions, but, also looking at the time, and I want to give anyone else who's got questions. So we'll just open up for 3 individuals. The lady there, the gentleman over there, is there any other taker? Anyone who's got a question? So perfect, we'll just cap it at the 2. If you'd like to, please just, where? Yeah, we've got the gentleman. Yeah, we've got him. If you can, please come up to the front and just ask a question. So I don't hog. So that we can wrap up. Because what fees? Yeah, just please. The X marks the spot. Please feel free to just. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, just please hold on 1 second. I think they're getting the tech ready. Are we sorted? Sure. Please feel free to ask.
Dumelang le kae? To the doctor and the host, thank you so much for the opportunity. Kalibitso ke Boipelo, born and bred mo Mabopane, brand advocate for Pretoria, bringing the gold from Joburg to Pretoria. So I am in digital marketing and PR, and one of my biggest struggles, because I'm passionate about uplifting small businesses, is getting them to understand some of the topics you spoke about today, which is the importance of brand building. I find a conundrum where I'm faced with, I'm passionate about helping you with your brand, but you don't have the funds to pay for my services. So I always initiate a trade exchange. But from a guru like you, what advice do you have for someone like me who is passionate about brand building, but who doesn't necessarily have the tools? So for instance, equipment, but I want to still be able to help. My second question comes in from the fashion perspective. How do I get a business owner to understand the importance of the image that they're bringing? And how do I get the corporate to take my client seriously, dressed in a specific way, whether it be casual or in an African-centric way? Those are my 2 points.
So let's start with the last one because it sounds easier, right? But I think you always need to dress the part that you want. So when we were young, my first book that I wrote was really about that, about helping people understand that if you are going to apply for a job or a bank loan, and you arrive looking like the loan is going to the wrong hands, you are not going to get the money. People don't give money to desperate and ugly and tattered people. They give money to people who look like they know what to do with the money when it comes to them. So part of the image and dress sense and all those is, yes, we understand that you're a plumber, that overall the whole day, we understand that. But you cannot come to a board meeting or to a meeting at IDC or a meeting at Standard Bank or FNB to try and arrange or discuss about how to get a loan. But you look like when the loan comes, it's going to go into an overdraft because you look like an overdraft. Because are you with me? So I think image is important. I think it's always important. I know it's not the most important thing to us as somebody who's hustling, but it is unfortunately the most important thing because you just have to dress the appropriate. I mean, I sat on a board of bank for 15 years, and everybody in the bank wore suits, and I wore a suit every day for 15 years. Even now, post. So 15 years I was, because I said, I don't want the conversation to be about, I want the conversation to be about what we've come to talk about. So sometimes by dressing appropriately, you make sure that at least we can focus on the substance, not on this thing I'm seeing in front of me. Because now that's a distraction. So a young entrepreneur like you, a young advisor, working with people. So when Nike, out of interest, when Nike started, they asked the young lady, Carolyn, somebody, to help them come up with the logo. And Carolyn did a little swoosh thing, that thing, which is like the breakout. She broke it from the goddess of victory, the Greek goddess of victory. And that thing that became the swoosh. And they paid him only $35, because that's all they had. Remember, they're starting out. They don't have money. 20 years later, they looked her up and they gave her a check of $2 million. She didn't ask for it. They just said, that which you've given us has become our symbol of excellence, our symbol of our brand. So it's about understanding with the young entrepreneurs that I know you don't have money, but maybe can you work out arrangements? Yeah, okay, for now I don't have money. Maybe I give you 1%, or maybe in the future I'll pay you in installments, or maybe, so you do things like that. I mean, the first client I had, the first client I had was Trademark, but the second client I had, well, after I quit corporate, was a young business. And they said, can we pay you as we get money? I said, of course. So you have to understand that as well. So I think you have to have that honest conversation. It's about having honest conversation with the supplier clients. Because if somebody is just making 5,000 rand or 10,000 rand a month, they still have to pay stock, they still have to pay for rent, they still have to live. It's about saying, okay, we will number 500 now. And then as you make more money, we can step up how much. But you agree up front. Or you can just, I think you just have to chat, to talk to them nicely. But you understand why they can't pay you. Look, I know you look like you're not cheap.
Dumelang everybody. Good talk. Thanks for the information, my brother. Thank you. While we're still building the brand now, I want to understand, how do we fight the system and injustices and regulations as black entrepreneurs? And then, if possible, how do we build alternative system for black people so that they can work for us and our businesses? That's my question.
We already know what vote the EFF, I can we know. So I mean, we're having a conversation about this in the earlier meeting I had this morning, that a whole lot of us, and I said it when I started, I said, the politics have not helped us. They have not worked for us. So let's look at young people. Let's look at Batu and Drip as an example, or even Tepo as an example. They started their brands, their businesses in their bedrooms, in their rooms, and all those type of things. Because sometimes the systems must catch up with you if you cannot change the system. So, and I think that's what we need to be thinking as well. Is because if we spend too much time complaining and worrying that the system is not working for you, you are putting your energies in the wrong thing. Show the system what you can do. And do what you need to do. To me, that's what I think we need to do. But of course, what I loved about the earlier example, he said, I found Kotatso, le somebody else. He said something that's important. So there's a saying and I'm not sure if it's true, but it needs to make the rounds, by some Jewish guy. He says the problem with black people is when she makes money, she goes to France, she goes to London, we always spend that thing. And as Jewish people, when we make money, we ask Kotatso, Kikopa o supply into. And then when I Kotatso too, Kopa supply into. And the money does this. And the money does this. The money. So what we need to do is that's how you beat the system, by creating your own system. And by saying that, why don't we create an ecosystem here? And that's what I love about what you've done, is you've now created an opportunity for them to build an ecosystem that will make them self-reliant and not reliant, go 300 rand, 350 Ramapos. So now they can do their own thing on their own. So I think that's what, I know it sounds easy, right? It sounds easy, but what is just demonstrated to me is what we need to do more of. We need to say, okay, I've just realized that 4 of us more regisa magwenya. Can the 4 of us get together, rebuilding a proper factory at magwenya? Instead of recompeting at 2 rand, let's scale up and partner and do a better job, and brand magwenya and do a better job of it. That's how you beat the system. Because you see, the system, unfortunately, even the ANC and everybody else has not been able to beat the system that they found here. Because this system here is working for the people that created it. So, and you can see it's not going to work for us. So we need to create our own system. But the only way to create your own system and to create your own is to create your own economy. Because if you've got your own economy, you can write your own rules. And right now we don't have an economy. 80% of the listed companies are non-black South Africans. 80% of the land is by non-black South Africans. 80% of the brands that South Africans love are non-black South Africans. So what do you expect? You expect the system to change for you. Yeah, but system. So you start your own system.
Yeah, and I think if I asked more questions, I'd really be spoiling it. But just one more, in closing, whether it's piece of advice, it's parting words, it's tips, or it's guidelines, what is it that is in your heart that you'd love to share with these amazing young entrepreneurs and the ones who are also watching us globally, by the way?
Oh, we're being watched globally.
Yeah, globally,
You didn't tell me we were going to be famous. I would not have. I would have been speaking only English. We're young now. So, no, but I think, to me, if I have to say any parting words, is something that to me is part of what builds me, and what I think when I speak to my young niece, my nephews, and everybody else around me. I always tell them, find your passion. Find the one thing that excites you. Find the one thing that absolutely you dream about 24/7. The thing that, this thing I would do even if I wasn't getting paid. But it's the one thing that we do. Because what's a mistake that most of us do? Most of us find a job, not a passion. And the job fights our passion. At home, we come after work, siswenza passion yethu. During the day, senza umsebenzi. And then what happens? Then we wait until we are old and tired. Then we want to pursue our passions. But now arthritis. But now, mokokotla. We don't have the energy. You don't have the time to put into your passion. So the first important thing you do, find your passion. Go to your passion. Do your passion. Because once you find your passion, it will lead you to your purpose. And your purpose is the one thing that's going to change the world. How you want to be remembered is your purpose. The thing, your life's work. What is it that you want to contribute to this world? And this world doesn't have to be South Africa. It can be Mabopane. It can be your family. It can be your neighborhood. Is you must say that, mina ngiphilela into eyi-1. That's what people say is my purpose. I think ngiphilela into eyi-1, sebenzela into eyi-1. That's all I'm working for, my purpose. Because once you've got your purpose, now you've got what the French say, the raison d'être, the one thing that you are living for. So, and it's, imagine now your passion fueling your purpose. Then when you got your purpose, then you must surround yourself with the people that are talked about. You surround yourself with those people who inspire you, the people who want the best for you, the people who see you for who you are, the people who love you the way you are and don't want anything else from you, who are excited by everything you do. They just love you because they love everything about you, right? And then make sure you are in the places that enable you to do your thing. Because environment is important as well. Because if you're surrounded by a place, like when you work at a place you hate, what yes, it just doesn't do things for me. I can't be myself in this place. So those are my 4 P's for me that I want to leave you with. Find your passion. Because when you're passionate about something, it leads you to your purpose. And your purpose makes sure that when you are gone, you do what L. Ron Hubbard once said. L. Ron Hubbard once said, when you are dead, you're going to be asked 2 questions. The first question they're going to ask you is, did you do the things you were meant to do on this earth? That's purpose. Did you do the things you're meant to do on earth? That's passion, that's passion. Then the second question asks you is, did the people who knew you think your life was worth living? That's purpose, that's impact. Remember, that's how you want to measure your life. Did you do the things you were meant to do? Because none of us here are useless. All of us here are meant to do something on this world. We were created by the Creator. We were made by the Creator to do something, to make a difference, to make an impact, to make somebody's lives better, to leave this earth, this country, this city, your township better than you found it. And then imagine if you do it in a place where it is appreciated. Because that's how you are going to be remembered. That's, to me, that's the most important thing. That's the only thing I'll say are my parting words on this today.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's just stand and give Mr. Mr. in the past, definitely Dr. Thebe Ikalafeng, a big round of applause Now I'm just going to ask the photographer, please take a picture. So I just need you to, yes. No, there.
You're the Mamelodi,
Mabopane.
I can't. I've never spoken like this my whole life. How Mabopane, the one?
That's why yeah.
That's how I pull Mama Melody. I think only pull one. Because you got a natural pool.
Just a solo one of yourself. You got that? Yeah, no, we're good. Yeah, and I think for me, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all that you do for us, you know, for the many amazing young brands that are out there in the market, whose products that we consume. And without little praise, you know, they don't go out onto social media and say it was you, but thank you. We appreciate you for everything that you do, and I love you. And I thank you. So we've got some flowers for you.
There's flowers.
Yeah, some flowers, you know, just to appreciate you. I was just checking if they removed the price, so the price is gone. This is the special make, and we've got a little token just to say we really appreciate you on behalf of all the brands you've worked with, you know, in the country, that you've really shown a lot of love to. So I commissioned, you know, this amazing piece just to say we appreciate you. Dr. Ikalafeng, not a small feat, you know. Your work is immeasurable. You are an inspiration. You are cut above the rest. I love you. We love you all. Let us all just stand and give Dr. Thebe Ikalafeng a big round of applause. Thank you so much.
Who's the artist?
It's Dumi. Sanami Dumi.
Dumi,
Yeah,
is what?
a young guy from Megas.
So they can grow a beard.
Yes. So I'll deliver this if it doesn't fit, but thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Mr. Mlemi, over to you, sir.